Cha-ching, ALPHA, Wealth Alpha.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Wealth Alpha podcast. Quick shout out to my girl Maya Marie, songwriter extraordinaire with her newest work hitting #1 on the Billboard 200, who busted out this badass theme song for Little Ol' Me. Today's episode is brought to you by nobody. We believe that an unaffiliated, unsponsored opinion is an honest one. I'm your host, Kellyanne Winget. I'm an entrepreneur, author, founder, public speaker, and alternatives expert. The Wealth Alpha is all about accessibility, so for those of you who can't see me, I'm a 33-year-old lesbian white woman with brownish blonde hair and blue eyes, and my pronouns are she, her. Fuck you money. What is it? Most people will tell you it's the amount you need to quit your job and run off into the sunset. Most people treat this question like, what would you do if you won the lottery? Or what if some large sum of money drops in your lap tomorrow? What would you do with it? I've gotten this response a lot, especially with the massive Powerball amounts we've been having over the last few years. Now, when people talk to me about it, they try to say that they'll invest most of it or put a lot of it aside. But the reality is that 30% of windfall winners go bankrupt in 10 years. And in that 10 years following the win, people are only saving around 16% of their earnings. Even on the largest win, the winner could be taking home $500 million with no guidance, experience, or network to structure that money to last the rest of their life. Debts are paid, friends and family come in, ego blows up, depreciating assets are aggressively purchased like fancy cars and million-dollar homes, but more on million-dollar homes later. Savings are an afterthought, and the investment advice, even if they look for it, is coming from those that want to collect their fees and sit pretty on that single client AUM. There are a lot of different ways that people can come into large sums of money. A sale of a business, sale of an asset like a home in today's market, Hollywood, OnlyFans, Vegas. Maybe you have equity in your company that you work for and that sells, or you inherit it. I believe there's a reason why people who experience unplanned wealth lose it so quickly, and it's because they don't have access to the same information and tools as high net worth individuals. Those families have been structuring and controlling their family's wealth for generations. The real fuck you number is the amount of money you need to live comfortably after you are no longer able to or wanting to generate income for yourself. This can be a passive income stream, for example. I need to make $150,000 annually passively to replace my 9-to-5. Once you've established this income stream, you can move on to what you need in retirement in order to support that lifestyle as you move away from actively managing your portfolio. I know I just said passive and actively managed in the same sentence, but in this situation, your passive income stream still requires active management. While you aren't out there physically earning the cash flow, your assets are. Those assets, like a rental property or dividend-paying stock, need to be actively managed. Most people have an advisor who is supposed to be monitoring this, but in most cases, it's a set it and forget it. This is how your portfolio loses 30% in a year in a down market. Most of you are here listening to this podcast because you want to take more control of your financial future. You don't want to leave that decision in the hands of somebody else. So let's really get into this. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Wealth whispers. Wealthy people are not showing off expensive cars and jewelry online. I grew up in a well-to-do family, neighborhood, school system, etc. It was very clear who was playing Keeping Up with the Joneses and who just existed inside this vacuum. One of the wealthiest people I met early in my career was an old man worth about $3 billion. I have since met much wealthier people, but they pretty much all have the same demeanor. I was working with a company in the energy space, and at the time we were hosting a client conference. Every morning at breakfast, this man would sneak pieces of bacon from the table and keep them in his pocket for snacks. We had snacks available throughout the entire day, and he probably could have ordered just bacon later also. But every morning, he was hiding bacon in his shirt pocket. This same man flew his own helicopter to the conference and wore sneakers that were probably 2 decades old. He was kind, he was smart, and he was the wealthiest person in that room. He had fuck you money, and he knew how to keep it, grow it, and leave it behind. The reason why wealthy people are wealthy, besides generations of humanitarian warfare, is because they don't spend it. They invest it. They invest massive amounts of it in a range of assets that take risks. They typically secure their portfolios with cash and insurance products, and then they go to town with the rest of it. There are 20 million millionaires in the United States. And in 2022, Schwab's Detached from Reality Modern Wealth Survey said that most Americans believe that a $2.2 million net worth makes you wealthy. Unfortunately, even with a net worth of $2.2 million, you can't say fuck you to anyone. And if you're 30 years old, single, no kids, live in California or New York, and you want to tell me to fuck off, you're going to need a lot more money. Factoring in inflation, the increase of the cost of living annually at 5%, I'm not doing 2% because it hasn't been 2% for a long time, you're going to need over $3.5 million invested by the time you retire. However, fuck that number if you plan on having kids, change job, lose parents, move, robots take over, or something else. The good news is that we're young, and we get to be creative and aggressive and start off on a better foot opportunity-wise than the generations before us. Our fuck you number might have to be 3 times what our parents and grandparents needed, but it also is a lot easier for us to make money and invest that money. We have a lot of options on how to grow our wealth compared to our previous generations, who had to have aggressive military careers, stock market creation, and the industrial business and industry pension jobs. We can literally make up clip art and sell it for $1 million. The most important thing for us to focus on at this point in our careers is maximizing our active income potential. While we're young, under, 45, we must squeeze whatever we can out of our salaries, our hourly pay, and our business income. This is what fuels our investment account. While there's validity in having 6+ months of savings, especially now where you have high yield savings accounts at 4.5%, however, you can take more risks to increase the return on sitting cash while you're in control of earning it. As we get older, our opportunities to earn income disappears. Take some risks, change jobs for higher pay. You still have the power in today's market, even if it's getting more competitive. Invest in longer held aggressive assets, and pay attention to the interest rates and only borrow on assets that can cover that interest. If the investment is only generating 6% returns, then don't borrow money at 7%. And give your fuck you number a deep thought. Your fuck you number is going to change a lot, and that's okay. You're going to be experiencing everything life throws at you, so don't get discouraged if that number seems unattainable. Maybe start with your I don't like you very much number to get you out of a situation you don't like or you feel is holding you back. Then move on to your fuck you number. Personal finances are just that, personal. Everyone's going to be a little different. Maybe your goal is to catch up after a shit show of 3 years of a pandemic, which might be most of us out there. Take it on in phases. Break it up into digestible pieces so that money doesn't overwhelm you. Take care of your today's self first, then take care of tomorrow. You could also just move to Bali and live off of $20 a day. Then your fuck you number just got a whole lot smaller and you get to live by the beach. Thanks for joining us on the Wealth Alpha podcast. Be sure to save, subscribe, and share each week as we navigate our alpha. Next week, we're going to be talking all about inflation, and not the kind blowing up these alien spy balloons, the inflation that is making eggs and orange juice liquid gold. See you next time on the Wealth Alpha podcast.
ALPHA, cha-ching, cha-cha-ching. ALPHA, Wealth Alpha.